So good morning, everybody. Welcome. I hope it's a nice morning wherever you are. It's got some sunshine here and some blue sky, which is nice. A bit chilly. So this is the opportunity that we give everybody to ask us as many questions as you've got. We've obviously had some sent in, which we're going to start off with. But if you do have any questions that you would like to pose, either as we go along because something occurs to you, or you want to clarify something that Sally and I are saying, then pop it into the chat function at the bottom, and we'll get round to those questions when we've gone through the ones that have been sent in to us, all of which are very interesting, and we are looking forward to being able to answer them for you. So I'm going to ask Emily to read each question in turn. That's how it's going to work, and then Sally and I will come in and tell you what how we would answer that question, what our thoughts are about it. So Emily, would you like to start with the first one that we've had?
Yes, so the first question is, I've been studying Tricia's videos for hooded eyes in the hope that I could improve my eye makeup. However, I've realised that my whole brow has, and probably still is, dropping. What can I do to improve my look? I'm running out of lid area.
Okay, so if I start with that and just sort of think about what hooded eyes are and what happens to our eyes as they get older, and you know, the fact that your brows are dropping, I mean, all of this is quite depressing actually when we start thinking about it. But the fact is that because the you know, this area here tends to collapse down for various reasons, so the skin gets looser, but also don't forget that what is happening to our faces, I think Diana Vig mentioned this in the talk that we had about menopause, particularly after the menopause, is that the skeletal structure of your whole body, the bones start to shrink. So the supports that you have, the natural supports that you have in your face, become less supportive than they were before. And of course, skin loses collagen and elastin and things like that the older that you get. Now that can, you know, you can be very depressed about that, or you can just say, okay, it's happening, what can I do? And there is an awful lot you can do. Now hooded eyes are where the skin on your eyelids, which is anyway quite thin, it stretches slightly, and instead of being sort of one smooth piece of skin from the brow down to the lashes, the top part of the skin becomes looser and it drops down and forms a fold basically over your eye socket, so that bit there. And I find with my eyes, they're not desperately hooded. I mean, some people are born almost with hooded eyes. If you look at Charlotte Rampling, I always think she's a very, very good example of a person who's always had very hooded eyes, but she's incredibly glamorous and very beautiful. So, you know, it isn't the end of the world. So anyway, but sometimes, some mornings when I'm really, really tired, my eyes definitely look quite saggy and that skin looks a lot looser, but there is a huge amount that you can do with eye makeup, and that's the message really. But to answer this particular question, you know, about my brows seem to have dropped and there's less space and all that kind of thing, I think I'm going to pass over to Sally in a minute for her thoughts about this. But I think the important thing is to really look at your eyes, be very honest, you know, get a good magnifying mirror, good mirror, have a look at them, and then think about what your eyes are about really. So you've got your brows at the top, you've got the lower lashes at the bottom, and you've got the space in between, and that's the thing that you can do something with. Now if that has got smaller, then obviously you need to think about how you approach the idea of reshaping that in the best possible way. So I'm going to pass over to Sally now, and she's just going to go through some thoughts that she's got about each of those areas and the best way to approach making your eyes look bigger, more open, and definitely compensating for the problem of hooded eyes and a sort of slightly dropped brow, if you like. So over to you, Sally.
Thank you, Tricia. Yeah, really, really common problem. And I mean, as gravity wins on, most people do tend to become more hooded, but Tricia is exactly right. First thing I would say is if your eyes are very, very hooded, check your brows and check whether you could actually remove a little bit of the lower bit of your brow. If your brows are actually quite thick and wiry, and are taking away more space as well. That's the first thing to check. It might be that you can't do anything about your brows and you haven't got any brows, but if you have got quite bushy brows, it might even be worth going and getting them professionally waxed or threaded or plucked or whatever you would like to do, so that your brows are actually really neat and groomed. And using the bring back brow that we have, you can even very slightly lift the brow area by using it slightly higher, which will have the effect of sort of giving you more area here. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, when you're putting your eye makeup on, as Tricia said, there are different areas. Now, if you've got hooded eyes, basically what you're doing is the fold is lower and you can't really see it. So what you can do with eye makeup is you can try and put an artificial sort of hooded artificial crease higher than your natural crease. So if you can see with my eyes, I've actually put my darker shadow higher than just in the crease area. And what a lot of women do is if they've got hooded eyes, they do this when they actually put their makeup on, and they lift the area too much. It's really important when you're putting your makeup on to look at the mirror just normally. Don't stretch your eyes to see where you could actually put a slightly higher, and it will be higher than you can possibly imagine it, darker area. So what you're doing with dark colours will push back and light colours will pull forward. So if you've got a heavy hooded area, the worst thing you can do is to put a light shimmery colour on that, because that will actually bring it forward and make it look more hooded. So what you want to do is to just show you with my shadow brush, find out where that hood is. It might be that it's really low like this. So put your dark colour actually just above that fold. So it will look very weird when you put it on and you'll look in the mirror and think, that can't be right. But actually, once it's blended and you're using a matte colour, it will have the appearance, it's just an illusion that your crease is higher up, which basically gives the illusion that you are not as hooded, if that makes sense. The other thing to do is not to bring your eye makeup too low. Keep everything the angle of the edge of your shadow reasonably vertical, because if you put your eyeshadow down here, that again will have the effect of adding to that sort of droopy kind of hoodedness. So keep the eyeshadow sort of finishing at that area. When you're putting eyeshadow onto an area that is very droopy, you might find that the normal way of sort of blending it doesn't work. You might find it easier to actually press and tap in the eyeshadow like so, rather than if it's very loose, the skin, if you start to do your normal sort of windscreen wiper effect, it might go in the wrong place. So I find actually if you kind of tap it in rather than doing this, you'll get it in a slightly better position and you'll find it goes in the right place. Waterproof mascara is a really good tip to use when you have got hooded eyes, so you don't sort of, again, it doesn't move and doesn't smudge. Using matte shadows, really good, and using the eye prime. The eye primer first will actually mean that your shadows will stay on in the right place too. So if it's really just, there's just no area at all and you think it's not working, I would say distract with a beautiful lipstick and don't worry too much. Just maybe use something like taupe sort of in this area and keep it fairly simple. Go a little bit higher than normal, maybe taupe all over and bring it up a little bit higher than you would normally. And then just use a lovely bright vivid lipstick to distract away from the hooded eyes. But I think that's sort of the three things I would do. Not too light and shimmery, certainly on the area that is hooded. Keeping your brows really neat and reasonably high so there is more area. Keeping the shadow from sort of not coming too low, and definitely trying to practice that false socket line higher than your natural crease. I think that's about it for me on that one. Is that okay?
That's absolutely fine, Sally. Thank you. That's really helpful. And what I'd say to you also is experiment and get creative. And what's brilliant is you've got two eyes. So what you can do is you can do something on one eye and compare it to the other eye. And it's really often quite interesting. So, you know, you just concentrate on one eye, see how you're going with that. Try maybe a couple of different techniques or whatever, and then look, sit back and then really look and say, does this eye look significantly better than this eye? I'm often amazed when I do. I mean, if I make a video and I do my eye makeup, if I put all my eye makeup onto one eye and then leave the other one, perhaps cut the video off, go off and do the other eye somewhere else because it's, I'm just showing it a technique on one eye. I can't believe the difference of the eye that's got the eye makeup on compared to the eye that hasn't. The difference is staggering, and it's almost like I thank my lucky stars every day that I can do that, because the change is huge. So I would say don't despair. Biggest, really, really good tip of Sally's about cleaning up this area here with errant brow hair. One of the things when I used to do makeovers in the shops, often women would come in and, because they didn't have very much in the way of eyebrows, they would be terrified of plucking what they did have. So it would be a question of leaving their eyebrows be because they had overplucked them in the past, and then you'd get all this sort of fluffy and extra bit here, and it really needs to be very clean, this area, and we do often recommend putting a bit of highlighter on there, and you can still do that with this technique. So you would have the highlighter up high, and I really like Sally's tip about slightly raising with the brow shape, lifting the brows slightly. The shape of your brows, you can change them quite a lot because you can do different lengths and also different amount of thickness in the inner corner and so on, and where you've got your arch, and you can change that quite a lot, and it does have a big impact on the shape of your eye. So I do hope that was helpful. Always with these questions, and when somebody wants to know how, I would say yes, watch videos, but just experiment. It's your eyes you're trying to change, and eyes are very different.
I'll say one more thing when you finish. I've had another thought. So
yeah, okay. And as I said, the comparison one eye with the other, that's the key, because it really helps you to see what's working, what isn't working. Sorry, Sally, back to you.
No, last thought I didn't mention, the use of eyeshadow as eyeliner if you've got hooded eyes. Two things. Obviously, if they're very hooded, you won't see the eyeliner, but if you do use your wedge brush, try and lift the outer edge of your eyeliner upwards so that has the effect of just counterbalancing. What you don't want to do is put eyeliner coming downwards. And I wouldn't not do it on the bottom. I'd maybe put it like I've got about on the bottom third, which again will distract away from the hooded bit. But if you're going to use it, make sure you wing it up slightly, make it slightly thicker on that outer edge, which will lift that hooded bit too. That's it. Sorry.
That's fine. Thank you. Emily, can we have the second question, please?
Yeah, of course. So the second question is, could you provide any tips on how you can reduce the appearance of pores showing through your foundation despite using the face primer?
Yeah, I'm going to pass this one over to Sally, really. I think she's got some more ideas about open pores than I have got. There are things on the market called pore minimizers. I think Clarins makes one. I've never used one because I don't need to, but so you could always have a go with some kind of topical product like that actually might work well for you. But Sally, what about makeup to help pores better?
Open pores. Some people just genetically have more open pores than others, and I think as we get older, as well as our skin you get decreased elasticity around the pore. That's what makes them look larger. So there's certain things you can do with skincare, as Tricia said. Certainly making sure you clean your face. I know it sounds obvious, but actually using a cleanser night and morning, using lukewarm water rather than really, really hot. Avoid scrubbing and rubbing, and just pat your skin dry. You should use, if you can, use an exfoliator once or twice a week to remove all sort of the the clogging of makeup, etc., and dead and dry skin cells. That will help to also improve the appearance. I think I've mentioned it many times before, I always use a soft flannel when I'm taking my cleanser off. So I use the cleanser, put it on with my face and take it off with a clean flannel, which I have got here. And I find that that actually helps sort of exfoliating and helps to reduce the look of my pores anyway. So I think that's a really good, a clean one every day. Love it. I use that now instead of cotton wool. So don't let your skin get too dry, because again, that can make pores look bigger. So do use the hydration serum and use a good moisturizer. Our moisturizers are fantastic. A clay mask as well is really good to use maybe once a week to help to absorb sort of serum. So that is sort of the skincare side. In terms of makeup, the face prime I find really does work. This question says it doesn't work, but there are two things. I apply the face primer all over. Then I use, if I'm using continuous cover foundation, I still mix a squirt of primer with my foundation on my hands and then put my foundation on. And I find that helps to minimize pores as well, using sort of a double dose of primer. What you could also do is actually use slightly less foundation or switch to the Light Look Beauty Balm, or even the Light Look Beauty Balm mixed with foundation, because a slightly lighter, less, you don't want a heavy foundation if you've got open pores. You don't want to sort of try and mask your face. And also really, really buffing it in, really buff in your foundation using the foundation brush, which I have got somewhere. Foundation brush will also make sure it's not sitting on, but it sort of really goes in well. And finally, using translucent powder, a very fine translucent powder. The Look Fabulous Forever translucent powder is brilliant for helping to minimize open pores. It's that after you've done your foundation or your Light Look Beauty Balm and your concealer, taking a light dusting of the powder all over really helps, I think, to minimize it. Don't get too sort of het up about pores, because people usually are not that close to you. Well, they might be, but to see open pores, it's sort of the overall look. I think when ladies do their makeup with a magnifying mirror, and I'm the same, I see things, I think, oh my goodness, it's so close up. But actually, step back when you've finished your makeup and hold your mirror at arm's length, and you'll see that nobody really will see your open pores. If you use the primer, mix the primer with the foundation, really buff in, and thin layers rather than thick, heavy layers, and then use the powder. Hopefully that will help.
Yeah, thanks very much, Sally. I totally endorse the translucent powder trick. My daughter Anna had a neighbour. She was Australian, so she would have been exposed to a lot of sun when she was younger. She'd come over to the UK in her 20s, I think, and she had the worst open pores I've ever seen. I mean, very unusual, I think, to see that in this country. But her skin was quite shiny, and I often used to think, if only you would put a little bit of translucent powder, I think it would have completely changed the perception one had of her skin, which always looked, as I said, these open pores were very obvious, and the shine drew attention. Shine always draws attention to things, so just a very light covering translucent powder can really help. Thank you, Sally. That was great. Emily, what's your next question?
The next question is, aging brings yellowing teeth. What colour lipstick is best avoided?
Okay, yes, so yellowing teeth, a tricky question. Teeth in general is a hard one. So I think, well, one of the things you can do is to do something about the yellowing of your teeth, of course, in the first place. There are all sorts of treatments around. I had my teeth professionally whitened, one of those sessions where they peeled your lips back and put lasers on and God knows what, when Susie got married, I was about 57 when she got married, so 16 years ago. And I have to say, I did love the effect. I mean, it really did make a big difference to my teeth. I haven't had them done again since, and I kept it up for a while with the molds and all that kind of thing. I'm not being paid by these people, I can assure you, but I will show you anyway. I use Pearl Drops toothpaste. And this one is Lasting Flawless, gently whitens teeth in 3 days. Now, I don't know whether this stuff works or not, but I really like it. I think it's quite gentle on my teeth. And this is for tooth whitening. So I say whether it's keeping our teeth a bit whiter or not, I don't know. So there's the the basis of teeth going yellow. You can do quite a lot to get them to look less yellow. But I think the tip, Sally, I'll come to you for this, in terms of makeup, is about well, let me pass it over to you. What are your tips for lipstick?
Okay, so in terms of lipstick colour, if you've got yellowing teeth, you are best to stick to slightly cooler lipsticks, which is fine if you are naturally a cool person and want to wear cool colours. That's great. So all the lipsticks in the cool range will look better against yellowing teeth. If you are a warm tone person like I am, and a lot of your lipsticks are very orangey based, yellow based, then I would try to stick to ones that are maybe a little bit deeper, so there's more contrast with the colour. You don't want a colour that is actually very similar to your slightly yellowing teeth. You want a contrast, so maybe slightly deeper, or something like soft coral in our range. It's in the warm range, but it does have that little bit of blue in it. Will actually create a little bit more contrast. If that doesn't work for you, the other thing you can do if you are slightly warmer toned is to wear lip gloss. So if you wear a little bit of a gloss, it will reflect light away from the teeth, so it will mean that your teeth look less yellow. So just either a clear lip gloss that we do over your natural, your favorite Look Fabulous Forever lipstick, or one of the other shades, so something like Cinnamon Kiss will work, or Summer Blaze. That's pretty good. That's a fairly sort of new. Summer Blaze is quite bright, but it's got a little bit of warm and cool in it. So wearing a gloss, keeping your lips in really good condition if your teeth are quite yellow makes a big difference as well. Keeping your lips hydrated and well exfoliated so they're not dry, because again, if they look slightly hydrated, that will again distract from the yellowing of the teeth. It's also what you drink and eat, as you know. If you drink lots of red wine and lots of tea and coffee, that will make a difference to teeth. So it's if that is an issue and you do decide to get them whitened, or you're using a whitening toothpaste, being aware of what you're eating makes a difference too. But generally avoiding very orangey based lipsticks, or lipsticks that are very similar to the yellow of your teeth. So as I said, something like soft coral is really good in the warm range. Also rosewood works quite well, and cinnamon. Yeah, the new, I think it's called, out here, soft cinnamon. They're quite good. All those three work really well.
Okay, Sally, thank you very much indeed. Yeah. I'm very conscious of teaching grandmothers how to suck eggs, and not that we're all grandmothers, and I'm not sure we all know how to suck eggs, but that terminology. I hope all of you are using an electric toothbrush. I can remember I'm dental phobic, having been brought up in the era of dentists not using anaesthetic. They didn't used to numb your gums when they did any treatments to you. And my first dentist had one of those machines that was operated with a foot pedal. So if you had a filling, and I've got a lot of fillings in my mouth. If you had a filling to be done, they'd put the instrument onto your tooth, and then he'd press. It was a bit like a sewing machine. He'd press the foot pedal, and it would work. You could almost see it turning round. It was so slow. And then he'd put it on your tooth with no anaesthetic, and you sit there going, it was agony. So that put me off dentists big time, and I've hated them ever since. So, but my dentist just say to me, he said, if you're not going to come regularly to the dentist, then one thing that you must do is clean your teeth with an electric toothbrush. So I've got one that times it for 2 minutes, and it times it every 30 seconds. I do quarter there, quarter there, quarter there, quarter there. And I stand on my leg while I'm doing it. So I'm getting lots of benefit from my electric toothbrush and my practice of balance. So yeah, I hope that all of you watching this are using electric toothbrush, because electric toothbrush combined with a good tooth whitening type toothpaste will make a lot of difference. So Emily, let's have your next question.
So the next question is, what do I do about, so my eyebrows are still dark, but they have white appearing more and more. What colour bring back brow shape do I choose, as my hair is now white?
Okay, I pluck my white brow hairs out. I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing, but the thing is that I don't get that many, but when I do get one, I just think, oh, I'm going to get rid of that, bang, it goes. So my brows are, you know, largely, as I've got rid of the white. You can use, brow shape is actually quite good, because you can actually tint using the liquid paint. You can actually tint those white individual hairs quite successfully. As to colour in terms of brow shape, we've got 3 now, as you may know. So we've got the original one, which is the dark brown, which I've put on this morning. So this is dark brown, but I'll talk about that in a second. We've also got a grey one for those of you who find the dark brown too strong, perhaps because you've got very faded eyebrows and because your hair is white or grey. And we've just introduced not long ago a blonde one, and it's for people who have still got fair blondish type of hair, or quite blondie eyebrows, and it's proved to be extremely popular. My daughter Susie, who's in her early 40s, she's loved our brow shape from day one, and she's blonde, and she is now loving the blonde shape. And I think Sally also is using that, so you can see that Sally is very fair, and it's working well for her. I think the really important thing to say is that with the brow shape, it's the spoolie brush that does most of the work in lots of ways, because having groomed your brows first, I put that dark brown one on, covering up any gaps that I've got, lengthening them slightly, filling in the first bit, which is quite thin, and just making sure that they're a much better shape. When I first put it on, it's much too dark. I then take the spoolie, and I use the spoolie in as much as I need to get it back to the shape that to the colour and density that I want. I do sometimes use the grey one, perhaps more in the summer actually than the winter. I think that when I've just been writing about that this morning, because I'm doing a blog about my own autumn winter style in terms of makeup and clothes. And I think that during the winter time, because I'm wearing darker colours on my face, you know, which I think look better in the winter light, then a darker brow shape works better for me. Sally, have you got anything to add to that one?
I have. I don't know if can you see that? I've put the 3 colours on there. Is that any good? So hang on, all right, what have I done? So grey is at the top.
Yeah.
And then I've got that's then the blonde, and then that's the brown, the original one. So I totally agree. I think that the question is which colour should she use if she's still got quite dark brows. I would just match the colour that you can with the brow. If they're quite dark, you're probably still good to use the brown one, as Tricia says, but I totally agree. Using the spoolie brush makes all the difference, and just you're literally painting on the hairs little fine feathery strokes rather than trying to do one big heavy line. And I use both the blonde one and the brown one. They, depending on whether I want a slightly stronger look, they both work, but if I use the darker one, I just make sure that I really sort of buff it through afterwards, as Tricia says, with the spoolie brush. But they're all brilliant, actually. I love the blonde one, but I also love the brown one. So yeah, really good. So that's what I would do. Go for the colour that you've got predominantly in your eyebrow left and stick with that one.
The other thing just to say is that it took us quite a long time to get the right colour for the blonde one, and a lot of them were quite gingery. So, you know, they'd make them for us and they'd send them to us, and they were definitely on that sort of ginger spectrum in terms of colour, so quite orangey, gingery. And you know, we give them to people to test and they'd say, not sure that that's very flattering. I sometimes think that when people have their eyebrows tattooed on, or they use, you know, microblading, it can look very orange. And it's because they're trying to achieve quite a blondish look. And unfortunately, the dye that they're using has got too much warmth in it. So our blonde brow shape is actually not orange.
No.
So it's as such, and you can see it on Sally, it's very flattering because it doesn't look yellow orange. And I was thrilled when they eventually got it right, and it took several goes. You know, they'd send them to us and I think, oh God, no, this is not going to work. So I think the one that we now have is actually lovely. So let's have the next one, please, Emily. Question.
So the next one is, how do I use concealer under my eyes correctly? I suffer from purple and blue under my eyes. I try to use the concealer, but I'm struggling to blend it properly.
Okay, shall I start with this one, Sally? Because I use concealer a lot, as quite a lot of you know. So when I first put on my foundation, I have this very, very dark blue area now. It's very pronounced in the inner corner of my eye. I always think of that as the old lady look. So I have to admit that I'm getting there fast. And it's that slightly sunken effect that you get around the eye area. And of course, it's very shadowed. So it's in there, and the skin is thin and it's actually gone quite blue. So the really, really important thing is that in order to blend concealer effectively around the eye area, so I sort of put it here, like there. I put it on with a brush and then I press it in, and then I add and top it with translucent powder. But the important thing is what you're putting it onto. So how is the skin? How is the skin before you put the concealer on? Because if the skin is even slightly dry, or even it's slightly in need of a bit of exfoliation because of you've got dead skin cells on the surface, then the concealer will grab on to any dry bits and get stuck. So you can't blend it. You know, makeup can only work as well as the base onto which you are applying it. And a lot of you would might put makeup on and think, oh gosh, this makeup isn't working on me. Well, it isn't the makeup that's not working. It's the fact that your skin isn't in a condition which will receive and accept and allow the makeup to perform as it should. And I feel that very strongly with concealer because it's very, very obvious. So how, what to do about that? Well, the first thing is, of course, I've just mentioned exfoliation, but you must be very, very careful if you exfoliate any of the area around your eye because it's so delicate. So we're talking about very, very, very gentle exfoliation. And Sally's tip about a flannel has a very mildly abrasive surface in the sense that it's got bumpy bits in it. So a good flannel used every day when you wash your face in itself can be very helpful. And then, of course, we're talking about eye creams. We're talking about any extra moisturizing that you can add. Our eye cream is formulated for that very delicate area. Always pat it in very finely. Don't drag it, don't pull it. Pat it into the skin. Make sure that it's very, very well absorbed. I use eye cream before I go to bed so that it's working overnight. And then in the morning when I get up and I wash my face, I then apply my serum and my moisturizer and make sure that that whole area has got sufficient moisturization on it in order for my concealer then to work. Remember that our concealer is creamy in formulation, and the creaminess of it really, really helps because a drier formulated concealer can be very unforgiving on older skin. So I think the important thing is definitely to get the canvas right. Make sure that that's in as good a condition as you can possibly get it. Don't drag, don't pull, press, use the warmth of your fingers to press. And then, I've got quite a lot of concealer on, but hopefully, you can't see it in the sense of, oh my God, you look at me and you think she's got a load of concealer around her eyes, but it's just doing its job of making my eyes look better because I haven't got that very dark blue bit here, and I haven't got the discoloration that I've naturally got underneath my eyes. Sally, are you happy with that? Anything to add?
I'm very happy with that. Just the only thing I would add is if you're really got really blue, you can also use the colour balance neutralizer in peach, which is again quite orangey when you put it on, but you put this on after you've done your face prime. You would then put a tiny bit of the colour balance neutralizer in peach on the really bluey, browny, purpley bits under your eye. If it's really brown, tap that in. Then what I tend to do is do the foundation and then do the concealer. And as Tricia said, the concealer is at the last stage, and put that over. And I tend to use my ring finger to really melt it in. Don't make the mistake of thinking you've got to go really light with the concealer to cover the bluiness. You're better to use the peach neutralizer and then a concealer that is actually very similar to your natural skin tone. Then it will look more natural than this sort of a panda eye, very light look, which some people use. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Sally.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next question is, as I've gotten older, my face has lost shape and structure. How can I bring shape back to my face? I've read about contouring with bronzer and I would love any tips on this.
Okay, I'm going to pass that one over to Sally.
Okay, contouring with bronzer is sometimes a bit of a contentious issue. Makeup artists say you can't contour, you cannot possibly contour with bronzer. You have to use a proper contouring powder. And I would say yes, however, our bronzing product is actually pretty good. It doesn't come out this color, it doesn't come out orange. It is quite a sort of net, because what you're doing by contouring is you are creating shadows, which is, remember I said dark colors push back and light colors push forward. So the bronzer can be used in various ways. If you are quite cool toned, as Tricia is, I know what Tricia likes to do is to actually put powder. You put your powder on, don't you, Tricia, first before putting your bronzer on. What I would do, because I'm slightly warmer toned, I use the bronzer over my blusher. But if I'm going to use it to contour, what you're doing, you can use it where you might want to create a little bit of a shadow. So kind of a little bit here, a little bit just actually on the jawline area to make that look sharper. And I also put a little bit just in here. So you put a pushing in, it will push back. So you don't need to put very much on. That's the secret. Don't put much on because you don't want to look as though you've been tangoed. This won't do that, but very subtle. You can use it to contour where there are natural sort of hollows would be here. Depends again on your face shape. If you're quite slim, you don't want to create too many hollows. You actually want to, you know, just kind of keep your face as it is. So you don't want it to look sunken. So the idea of contouring is basically you can create a little bit of structure by pushing back with a slightly darker color, but it doesn't want to be orange, but it does work with our bronzer.
Have we got any more questions there, Emily?
Yes, we have. So the next one is, do you have any application tips for eye cream? Just about how much? Does it go under the eyes or all over? And should it be applied every single night?
So we're talking about moisturizer.
Yeah.
I would say yes to every night. What about you, Sally? Your thoughts about eye cream?
In terms of putting it on, I actually have quite a lot of lines, and I found using the eye cream every single night has made a massive difference to how my concealer sits. It doesn't seem to sit in the fine lines that I definitely have under my eyes. So a small amount, it's really lovely. Don't put too much on. You don't need very much at all. That's the secret with this product, but I love it, really love it. And I remember somebody saying to me years ago, it was a lady when I was probably in my kind of late teens. She had beautiful skin. I remember saying, what are your secrets? And she said, the best thing my granny ever told me is to use an eye cream quite early on every single night. And that's what I've done religiously. So I'm quite passionate about eye creams rather than just putting moisturizer on. Moisturizer can be a little bit too heavy for the under eye area. Eye creams are specifically made for the thinner area that is under your eyes.
Yeah, and also I don't like putting the eye cream onto my eyelids. Sally said she doesn't actually do it on her eyelids, so it's more around this area here, because I feel that when I'm asleep and I've got my eyes shut, that product can migrate into my eyes, and I don't think that that's a very sensible thing to do at all. Not least you can wake up with a slight film over your eyes from the the product. And so I definitely don't think that you should put it actually onto your eyelids as such. And Emily's just flagged up in the chat button there. We've got an incredible offer this week of 25% off our skincare range, which is 5 products. So the code for that is SPA, S-P-A, and it's going to last all this week. So Emily, we've got about 15 minutes left. Have we got some questions that have come in from the chat function at all?
Yes, we have. So what was the first one? Diane asked, is there anything to help with hyperpigmentation?
Hyperpigmentation, which is where you have discoloration on the face from the fact that the skin isn't even. I think that's what hyperpigmentation is, Sally?
Yes, yes. I mean, people call it sunspots, age spots. You know, there'll be areas, and as we get older, that it does get worse, and there's sort of more of that when you're young, but lovely smooth. So there are certain things you can do with products. So using things with niacinamide in it, vitamin C, something called kojic acid, K-O-J-I-C, hydroquinone, small dosage. There are certain products, if you kind of type in, that you can use. But in terms of makeup, I mean, I'm a great believer in concealer. The concealer, for me, I've got great big little areas from sunbathing too much when I was young. SPF, really important, that, you know, at all stages of your life, continue to use an SPF. But if you have got areas of pigmentation that you need to conceal, our concealer, being really creamy after the foundation, I think is fantastic. And I would literally put it on, tap it in, and then when I've concealed the area that I need to, I would then take a little bit of the translucent powder with the eyeshadow brush and just pat over like so to hold that concealer in place. And I find then you can get a really even effect from a skin that doesn't look even. It's like magic Tipex for the face. The concealer really helps with hyperpigmentation, but keeping your skin out of the sun with an SPF. And there are certain products, as I said, niacinamide and vitamin C, anything with that in really helps too.
I think if you're if it's really bad and you're really worried about it, then consulting your doctor, a dermatologist. I mean, there is an awful lot that you can do. Vitamin C at proper strength, so it wouldn't be in normally that strength in products that aren't on prescription, but it can make a huge difference. So if you're really worried about it, then getting medical advice, because a lot can be done, and it can really help. We are in development. We've got a couple of things in development. We've got something that is definitely going to come on stream. We mentioned a clay mask being really good for, helping the skin to look better, from the point of view of open pores, but obviously masks are really helpful to keep your skin in good condition. And we are launching our own clay mask sometime in the new year. That's something that we've got in the pipeline. And we've also got an age spot reducing hand cream that we're looking at the moment. So that should be interesting. Somebody said the other day that they had tried the eye cream on the back of their hands because their hands were looking very dry and scaly, and it worked like magic. But I think that's quite an expensive way to use. But we've got 25% off this week. Emily, let's go back to you for any other questions.
Penny asks, she has no eyebrows, how does she draw them in? And that is a question that we get asked quite a lot. If she's got nothing, what would you do?
Okay, Sally, do you want to, if you've got something long and straight there, yeah, you can illustrate it. I haven't got anything here, so you go ahead and do that.
Okay, let me just pin myself. That's it. Okay, hold on. So basically, you need to know where the start point should be of your brows and the end point. That's important. So if you hold your at the edge of your nose and go straight up, that would be the sort of the starting point. If you diagonally hold it to the end of from your nose to the end of your eye, that is where your end point should be. And the middle point, again, it depends on what sort of effect you want, whether you want a flat brow or a slightly raised brow. If you want a slightly arched brow, if you go through literally the edge of your iris, that's sort of that area, then again, you get that sort of point. So you can actually, with the bring back brow, you can physically put a little mark here and here and here. And then with the bring back brow, just shake it, take off the excess on your hand. That's the secret. Don't go straight from the pot, take off the excess, and then literally draw in between those dots in very, very, very fine strokes. And again, you can decide how thick you want your brow. That's the beauty. If you've got no brows, you can decide, depending on how much area you've got here, you might want it to be really thin, or you might want it to be a little bit thicker here. And then take your spoolie brush, and that's where the effect really comes into play. Once you've drawn in, if you've got nothing there and you're drawing in little lines, it will look a little bit harsh. So then you take your spoolie brush and literally blend it out, and it will honestly look as though you've got natural brows. It's the most amazing product, and it's waterproof. So once it's on for the day, it won't move. So just practice when you are not in a hurry, and you can just relax in front of the mirror and try and with this product, just take something straight and get your little dots and then fill it in, like painting by numbers.
Thanks, Sally. I actually came up with the idea for our brow shape because my sister-in-law had lost her eyebrows, so she had absolutely none, and she was drawing them on a bit like a child would draw eyebrows on in a picture, and she hated the effect, and she'd grown her fringe long to cover up her eyebrows. She lost her eyebrows because of a thyroid problem, and I just looked at her and I kept thinking, you know, what could I suggest that would be easy to use and actually really effective? And I thought of the idea of a very fine brush and liquid paint. And I've got some amazing photographs. Actually, this was before I launched Look Fabulous Forever, when I was testing and trialing things of Jenny, my sister-in-law, with no brows at all, and then me having created them for her. But the tip of, you need 3 dots basically. So do the line up here, roughly where, you know, remember the width apart of your eyebrows should be the same as the width apart of the base of your nose. When people don't have that right width, they've either got their eyebrows too wide or too narrow, it looks really odd, because we want the symmetry of the distance between the base of our noses and the width of the brows at the top to be the same. So you put those dots in, and then the dot for where you think it should end by taking that line out there, and then through the iris and for the higher point, and then you've got the basic shape. You can actually buy templates, eyebrow templates, which are plastic things with the shape of the brow cut out. So you could possibly just Google it, eyebrow templates, find one that you think is a really nice shape, and then you could get one of those, you then put it on, and then it will give you the guide for filling it in. So you could have a go at that. I tried that with Jenny, and it was just helpful sometimes as a rough guide, because the trouble is you've got nothing to guide you. You know, you've got no eyebrows, you've got nothing to guide you. So the measurement thing works really well. But as I said, a template might help you as well. Emily?
So Angelique asked you, Tricia, what is the best method for removing the fluffy eyebrows that you mentioned in terms of keeping that bit clean?
Well, having them done, I mean threaded. So you go to somebody who will just, you know, literally go there with their threads. I never know how they can do it, but they can. They're very fast and just pull them all out really fast. Or I just get my tweezers and just go at the whole area, and I just go sort of, you know, pull, because I know that anything that I'm pulling out needs to go. And I just tidy mine up I don't know. In fact, what happens usually is that I forget. I then look in, I've got a 10 times magnifying mirror stuck to my big mirror in my bathroom. I go into that and I go, oh my God, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I've got little hairs coming out here, black ones. The other day I pulled a hair out of this bit between my lip and my crease there that was literally half white, half black. And it was quite long. It was terrifying. I thought, oh my goodness me, people have been, no, they haven't, nobody cares. Nobody cares about that little hair sticking out there. But anyway, I plucked it out. And so have a look in a really good magnifying mirror, and then you'll really be able to see. But I use tweezers, basically, good tweezers. Yeah.
Great. And a question from Denise. She asks, Sally, what colour lipstick are you wearing?
I'm wearing coral, true coral.
Is that the long-lasting one?
It is actually, yes, very. I'm so excited. We've got true coral and russet now as the warm, long-lasting lipsticks. And we've got, in the cool ones, we've got sweet pea and soft plum.
Yeah, they're the new ones that came out last week that we added to the collection. So the original collection is Berry Berry. Remind me, Sally. We have Berry Berry and
fuchsia and dusky pink.
That's right. We did those three cool colours.
And then the warm was rosewood, soft coral, and foxy lady.
Yeah. And we've added two more. So there's 5 in each of those now, the long-lasting ones. I'm wearing the long-lasting Very Berry. I would call them longer-lasting lipsticks. I mean, you know, they're not going to sort of go onto your face like, almost like a transfer, you know, that won't come off. But they definitely do last longer than our normal range of lipsticks. And I find I refresh mine after lunch. That's it, done for the rest of the day. And I'm scrubbing it off pretty much with some makeup, not scrubbing it off, but you know, wiping it off very thoroughly with some cleanser at the end of the day. So it works well. So they're really good.
Sally, Denise asked, is true coral lighter than the russet?
Let me show you. I've got them here. Let me put them on my hand. Hold on. It's different. That is. So this is true coral. We are just different, and this is russet. It is. True coral is less orangey. So that one at the bottom is true coral. Can you see that? And the other one is russet. Russet is still more orangey, true coral is just more corally. So I would say, yeah, the true coral is slightly lighter and slightly brighter than the russet, which is a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Not massively different, but yeah, they're both lovely. Both really nice.
If you're on Super Troopers, Angelique Dutois, who's one of our Super Troopers who's on this call, I think, she put up a couple of brilliant photographs on Saturday of herself wearing the 2 new colours, and you can really see them there. So if you're in the little queue thing at the top of Facebook, if you put Angelique Dutois in, you'll see her latest pictures, and it's a very good, clear illustration of the difference between them. But Sally's actually wearing the true coral at the moment, so you can see what that's like. It's a really lovely colour, very pretty. Any more, Emily? We're nearly done.
We've just got one last one from Margaret. She says, SPF makes my foundation pill. Have you got any tips for this?
Oh, it's so difficult. I hardly know what to say to this one, because what pilling is, it's where the product that you're trying to put on as a foundation doesn't like what you've got on your skin already, so it rubs off, and it's really distressing because you can't get it to stick. And obviously your SPF is so strong and so moisturizing, or not moisturizing, it's adding such a layer to your skin that it's actually preventing your foundation from actually going on. I mean, one of the things we do have SPF in our moisturizer, but we're only allowed to claim 10, SPF 10 for it. It was a bit higher, but you know, they're very strict about what you can claim for SPF. We were aiming for 20, but we didn't get anywhere near there. The trouble with SPF products is that they have things in them which are there to be barriers to your skin, because they don't want to let the sun come in. You could try and find a moisturizer that's got a higher SPF in it and see if that works for you better than actually applying a sun cream as such. But it would be a bit trial and error as to whether that actually worked with the foundation that you were using. People are very, very worried and concerned about sun damage, and so they should be. But I do think that you know, total barrier and all that kind of thing. A isn't necessary, but B is difficult to achieve. In fact, Sally, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a really difficult question. Certain things you could try. You can actually buy, I think I mentioned before, sort of SPF sprays that you put on after you put your foundation on. That might be another option to use. I know the Body Shop do one, various people do them, where you're actually spraying your face with an SPF after foundation, which might help with the pilling. Are you using the primer as well? I don't know, because that, for me, is really good to use the primer or the primer mixed with the foundation. But it's a little bit of trial and error depending on the SPF that you want to use yourself. That's so, without knowing what you use, and yes, as Tricia said, certain things just don't necessarily agree with other ingredients. But that would be my thought. Maybe try one that you can wear after foundation rather than before.
Yeah, and leave lots of time before you try and put your foundation on, so that it's really absorbed into your skin. I think that
Definitely
layer things up on their skin, and the skin can't absorb it; it just refuses to absorb it, and then you get pilling, and it starts to come off, which is a real problem.
And maybe try the Light Look Beauty Balm rather than the Continuous Cover Foundation if you haven't tried that, because you might find that works much better with your SPF cream. So if you haven't tried that, give that a go.
I think I did mention on one of these calls that I was trialing some SPF drops, and they were designed to go into the foundation. They were brilliant. We loved them. Went back to the manufacturer and said, yes, we're very, very interested in these. And they were things that they were trialing themselves. Anyway, they then sent us sort of Mark 2 or 3, and they were completely different. Thick, quite pasty, and so disappointing. I can't tell you, because the original SPF drops, I was saying yes, we've got to have these and get them, and we've not got there with them at the moment. So they sometime, maybe in the future, we might be able to do them, but not at the moment, unfortunately. Anyway, I think that's our time up for today. Thank you so much for your company. Been lovely to have all of you with us. Thank you to Sally, as always, for her brilliant tips and hints and everything that we need to hear from her. And also thank you to Emily for helping us with the questions and everything. I just want to give a little plug and shout out for the film club. We've got a very select group of women who come to the film club every week, somewhere between 10 and 15, and it's wonderful. I love it. I love it because on a Friday afternoon, it's such a nice thing to do. Basically, we all watch the same film. Our film for this Friday is Billy, which is a biopic of Billie Holiday. It's on Amazon Prime and on Cusden Home Cinema, so you can actually buy it to watch it. It's about £3.99. And then we come together on a Friday. We spend a half an hour in smaller groups chatting away. We don't always talk just about the film, so we have a lovely time together, and it's such a lovely group of women. I can't tell you how nice they are, and also we have good quality conversation, and it's very stimulating and really interesting. So do think about coming and joining us, because the more the merrier, and we'd love to welcome you. So don't forget that is this Friday, and we would love to see you there 4 o'clock for a live Zoom call. And we don't film it or anything, it's just literally a chat that we all have, but it's one of my favorite parts of what I do, I think, at the moment, in terms of meeting people, because it's good fun. Okay, so thank you to all of you, and have a lovely week. Enjoy yourselves, and bye-bye to all of you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.